because of our thinking, we don't have community like we used to. Because we used to have to do it. But when you don't have community, you can't get nothing. Your kids got to go to the white man for the jobs and everything. So I think that once we can understand how the communities take time to develop, it takes money to develop, it takes sacrifice to develop. But once you got it, man, you got something, man. You got something crazy. And that's what I want this podcast is to show, like, hey, look, wherever you are ever, if you're in Houston, Dallas, even if you came here, you need to work with people in order to achieve something. Because if you have nothing as a group, and stop looking at yourself as an individual. Well, I make $20,000 a year. Yeah, but you might be able to make $2 million a year if you had a network. You know?
Yeah.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya. This is the Repat Podcast. I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
You're really projecting your voice.
What?
Really clear and
Oh,
concise.
thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Vincent.
it was good. Mayte DJ.
Look at Gab's giving that look.
Guys, like, why are these two always teasing each other? Mayte, DJ and producer, born in London to Caribbean parents, living in Kampala now for 5 years. Big up.
Okay.
Hi guys,
Welcome to
Master
Kenganda.
Gabs here.
Okay, guys.
I'm just happy to be here, guys. I'm just happy to be here. Go ahead, man.
O'Shea Duke Jackson, Sacramento, California, African-American. Let's get into it.
Okay, O'Shea, take this one away.
All right, so we were actually fishing for a topic. We ain't gonna lie. We had nothing to talk to you niggas about today. It's gonna be real. But then we thought about coming into, you know, the repat community, you know, blacks coming back to Ghana and all of this. And I think that we're missing one thing is that a lot of us as blacks have no idea how to work together, how to solve differences and things like that, and how to keep trying again and kind of build communities, because for the last, like, especially for us in like the West, we haven't had to really do that for a long time. So if you decide that you want to come back here or even live in the community, that is going to be what makes or breaks you. So today I guess we want to talk about is how do you learn how to work with black people all over again if you've never had to before?
Mm-hmm. Gabs.
Well, that's a tough question.
Let me
It's a very
specialize it,
broad
right?
question,
You specialize it then, okay? You talked about when you first came back to Uganda, you're trying to add value.
Yeah.
You're excited to be here, and you're in the private sector trying to add value, and so you're dealing with these Ugandan business people, and they're looking at you like, okay, let me use this guy, and you're able to juxtapose that to your experience in the United States, where
Yeah.
you're compensated for what you're doing, you're compensated for your value, and now you're here with your people here, or those that are blacks, but you're not getting treated the same way, and you're comparing both situations. Like, well, why did I come back here if the blacks are going to be treating me like this, my own people, and I'm trying to build a network, a friendship, a common bond with them, but I'm having this difficulty. Should I just give up and stop and go back to my old life where I am valued, even though I'm in the private sector in an American company? But here, when I'm trying to add value, I'm having difficulty doing it with those people who look like me. I mean, yes.
Okay. I think first of all, it requires an individual to develop a really thick skin because you're going to go through a lot of getting your fingers burnt, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the nature of any business that you get into, but particularly when it comes to getting to know people who are looking at you from a business first perspective. The natural instinct, from my impression anyway, is that people are always just going to look forward to extracting value from you while giving minimum value to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the hard part about learning how to work with Ugandans or Africans is seeing through that and understanding that we have a common goal and we need each other in order to be able to achieve this common goal. So when I say you need to have a thick skin, it's because you might go through one business partnership, find that it doesn't work for you, and get discouraged and say everybody's like that. But that's not the case.
Yes.
Everybody isn't like that. So when you try and go at it again, give it a second effort and it fails. Give it a third effort and it fails. A fourth effort and it fails. Keep trying until you land on the right person. Keep trying until you land on the right partner. But also look within yourself and make sure that you're not letting off signals to somebody who can look at you and understand that your food on their plate. If you approach somebody with a sense of desperation, if you approach somebody with any lack of confidence in yourself and the value that you bring to the equation, and most importantly, if you approach somebody with a lack of clarity about what you want out of this, then you're always going to find yourself more easily misled than somebody who comes through with the proper confidence, the proper identity of self, and the proper clarity of what it is that they want to get out of the situation. It's very difficult to screw over a person who's laser focused on what they want to get out of the situation. So I think that's the beginning point. Patience, man. It takes patience and resilience, a whole lot of that, for sure. I'll start there.
Okay. Well said. Maintain.
Very good points from Gabs once again.
Yeah.
I have come to the realization that due to my accent, I'm just gonna have to deal with the what's the word I'm looking? The assumption from Ugandans that I'm not as street smart as they may be, and I'm always going to be tried in one form or another. What I've just learned is just not to take it personally.
There you go.
Anymore. I used to take it so personal to the point where I just like, if I saw the person in question in public, I would kind of avoid them, or I'd be a bit cold and give them the just get away from me sort of thing.
Right.
But I've learned not to take it so personal now. And when people get to know me a lot better and they kind of get an understanding of who I am as a human being, the attitude changes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of perseverance. It's a lot of like, is it putting your ego to one side, or is it just learning the landscape? And I'm cool with it now. Whereas before, oh man, like I just wanted to go hell for leather to like, would you call it petty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, no, I mean, I have got petty side, and I would be doing petty, but it just wasn't getting me anywhere, because it just create more division, and in the long term, we just end up not understanding each other. And then I'm going around speaking things about that person that may not necessarily be true, and vice versa. So yeah, now I just don't take it so personal, because I understand what my accent represents, what it means to some people. And once I get past that, it seems to be all good. Yeah.
Okay. I'll speak for my people when I say I feel like when most Ugandans meet a foreigner, some of them do want to help, and they do want to, give a helping hand, help you out where need be, direct you here and there, answer your questions here and there. Still the same thing is helping, right? But then there's a certain percentage that will want to take advantage of you. Okay, they'll look at you. First of all, I know people say, "Oh, we're all black," but there's levels to this blackness. Someone can tell you're not from here. You know what?
Levels to
Look
the
at Maintain's
blackness.
glowing skin. Do you think he's Ugandan?
We go here again. Uber driver did say that to me,
Exactly. So I'll look at Maintain and know he's not from here, even before you say anything. Because there's levels to this blackness, this thing called being black,
What are those levels? What do you mean?
Like, by levels, I mean how you look, how you treat yourself. Because like I can tell someone who's not Ugandan by how they interact, even by your walk. Because if you walk, you walk like you have hope.
That is very true.
You walk like you have hope. I know Ugandan. I know how Ugandan.
You walk like you have hope.
That's a real thing.
It is real,
Because
guys.
no. Tell me,
how is it real? Mhm.
Because I'm gonna forget otherwise.
It's okay.
So,
Tell
got
us.
too much
in the Ca-
self-esteem.
in the
He's not one of us.
In the Caribbean, they say the same thing to me. So in the Caribbean, we're like Dominica, where my dad's from, in St. Kitts and Nevis. I look like a Dominican or a Kittitian, right? So the way they told me apart is my pace of walking. So they're saying, "Oh, I know you're from," as a Caribbean say, "I know you're from foreign because you walk too fast." Because here we walk slow because of the heat. We take our time. But you're like from one shop to the next.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Just the way you walk.
Yeah. So when I say levels to blackness, it's not about that how black you are or the
No, I got that.
Yeah, but it's just how you do certain things. Like you can definitely tell a foreigner from a national. So there are people who want to take advantage of that. But all I can say, the solution to that is having another national with you, like a fellow Ugandan who you can befriend to help you navigate the system and navigate how the locals do their thing. Because you can say, "Oh no, I got this, I can do my own thing." And then you get on the ground. And people are just looking at you and you're walking dollar sign. They're looking for ways to get that money out of you, and they will get that money out of you. That is very unfortunate, but you have to be aware of such people.
I think maybe as this guy is yelling in the background here, the problem starts before you even get to Uganda. And that's the main thing. I think that we're spending some time talking about, people here. Do you know, like, people can do that back home? Like, that's the issue,
Yeah.
The problem with the black world, it's not the African American or the black British or the Ugandan American coming back to Uganda and then you're having problems with them. Yeah, that is part of it. The mindset and the mentality of what Malcolm X called the Negro, quote unquote, the black or person is, you can't work with black people anywhere, such that once you get there, you have one bad experience and then you have this trauma of what happened in Del Paso Heights or East St. Louis or whatever. That's the bigger issue. Because whether or not you come to Uganda or not really is not the point. And it's not really about repatriating here. It's like, why with people that look like you can't really achieve anything in comparison to some of the other groups out there? John Leguizamo, I'm going to use him as an example. John Leguizamo is a Colombian. Colombians typically do not like Mexicans. You remember there was a fight between Oscar de la Hoya and Felix Trinidad, I think in like 1999 at Mandalay Bay. And the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans did not like each other. They don't. And anybody knows that. Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, no. Dominicans and Mexicans, no. But now, look at them now in this generation. You're seeing now they're coming together under one united block, right? And now you're seeing they're celebrating Latino culture. And as blacks, we're having the African Americans versus the Nigerians versus Ugandans or whoever else and Caribbeans. It's getting better. But the thing is, even if you're saying I'm an African American and I don't like Nigerians, but the person that talks like that still can't get anything accomplished in the African American community, or vice versa. Igbo pride or whatever, and they have very much difficulty. So the thing is this: we have to understand something. Other groups are coming into spaces that, and you guys are telling me about some of the opportunities that were here, because these people are united. They want to work with their people. And I want to talk about what Gab said, your fingers are going to get burned. That's the thing you need to understand. We as a group don't know how to even communicate. Even me, it's been in my 40s, even communicating with black women was always difficult. When something happened, it's like, hey, that's a woman, you still shouldn't talk to her in that fashion, But even talking to the people, your brothers, appreciating your men, appreciating your women, and then, okay, we need as a group everywhere in the black world to work together, not just Africa. Because you're being replaced, bro. Like, look at what's going on in the world. You're, an African-American community, we're the biggest voting bloc. Now you're number 2. Won't be soon till you're number 5. And if you didn't get nothing when you're number 1, what do you expect when you get number 3? So before you come here, you don't know how to work with blacks in general. You have a negative perception of your people in general. And once you get here, you have a honeymoon phase and something happens. You're just like those other niggas that, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how you have some place to judge because, okay, I'm going back to Ghana because they're scam artists, but we have them in the black community too. We have liars, we have thieves, we have robberies, we have killings. So now, what is it that can solve the issue so that black people, even before you start to come to Uganda, I would even suggest, start working with people now. Like, don't wait until you come here to start working with people. Start doing it now. If you want to come to Uganda, start working with Ugandan embassy, start meeting people, meet people in the African American community, start adding value now. Why do you need to wait until you come here to do that? Start doing it now.
Right.
Yeah, because most people I notice that come here, but you cannot work with them. Like, they're hard to deal with. So how are you going to be hard to work with in America and you're going to move all the way here with the same problem that you fucking had in America? You're an asshole in America. You're not going to stop being an asshole when you come here. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of conversation I'm trying to pull it towards that. I don't want it be more or less like, okay, I'm getting overscammed. We understand it happens. But you see, the issue is that blacks can't do nothing like that usually at all. We've lost that ability. How do we get that back in the struggle that it's going to be to get that back?
Man, where'd you even start? I think it's all the while you were speaking, O'Shea, self-worth just kept running around in my mind as you were speaking. And I think it's a lot to do with that. Because if we all know what it is, right? It's the portrayal, it's the media perception. You know, you're watching it as a kid and you're not really seeing much in the way of positivity outside of sports, professional
Or music.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot to do, in my personal opinion, to do with self-worth. If we had a more self-worth and believed in ourselves a little bit more, we wouldn't then look at each other the way we do and then deal with each other in business and personally the way we can sometimes. I don't want to generalize saying we're all like that, but I think it plays a very, very, very big part because I really, as a kid in school and whatnot, I wasn't very academic. I didn't fit in to the curriculum. I felt smart. I knew I was smart, but I was being told I wasn't. You know, you would go speak before you knew better. I'm looking at a teacher as like someone to look up to, right? Like you're ethically and morally a person I can trust. And they're just telling me, oh, I don't think you should be a journalist. Man, saying, why don't you be a carpenter? Like you're people that look like you, like you're good with your hands, you know, and that and it starts from there. So if we can somehow, you know, well, I know in the UK they're not going to change the curriculum anytime soon, but it's important that, like to mention, there's an author called Akala in London, very intelligent brother. He went to Pan-African schools on the weekend as well as his formal education. And that helped him so much. And I think things like that need to happen.
Yeah.
To teach like kids like myself in London, whatever your heritage, your lineage may be, for a sense of self-worth. And I think if we can start doing that a lot more often, I think it will go a long way to helping us work together.
A big thing around working with people who are different from you also comes from what we were taught in school, business school, once upon a time. At least part of what I remember. A lot of what we were taught in business school is that it's a zero-sum game. Business is a zero-sum game. And what I mean by that is, in order for you to win, somebody else has to lose. And when we get into business relationships with people that are not familiar to us or that we don't have an innate sense of loyalty to, a lot of the time when you approach it from, I need to win. I need to win. Often at the expense of the person that you're trying to do business with. So how do you balance that feeling of just needing to win at all costs with wanting to make sure that you do things in a way that brings your counterpart into a winning position as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it could be approached from that perspective of, do you care about this person as a human being?
There you go.
Do you care about this person's ambitions, hopes, dreams? Do you know if this person has a very torturous family situation going on at home that informs why they're making the decisions that they are, or what motivates them to get up every day and hustle? Do you know if this man or woman has a child or children at home to take care of that they're trying to pay school fees for, pay medical bills for? There could be a struggle built into this person's life that motivates them to do things that you may not necessarily agree with, that if you took time to learn and understand them better, it might give you a little bit more reason to be empathetic or accepting, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the relationships that we need to work on are not just the business relationships, but make your business relationship with this person mean more than just the transaction that we're trying to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be that I've met O'Shea, and now we, as two intelligent brothers, are going to see what we can do about pouring encouragement and positivity into each other's lives in every aspect of it. Not just about the business that we're trying to do that will pay our bills, but the business of life in general, in the game of life. There's the score on the scoreboard, and then there's the score in the game of life. And are you winning in the game of life, or are you just focusing on the scoreboard? I think that's something that people also need to consider as well. Are you on the right side of it? And if not, what can you do differently to bring about a change in your circumstances?
I just want to say this real quick. 2017, I was in the manosphere, and a guy came and gave me a super chat of $5. And the guy's name was at the time Lifestyle and Fragrance by Kevin Samuels. That was his name. It wasn't just Kevin. It was that name. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? So I checked the guy's name out. I was like, okay, this guy's a like fashion guy or whatever. And so I emailed him, or he emailed me, and I gave him the guy's first interview. And he's like, oh man, that was great, because the community didn't know who he was at the time. But then, fast forward just 4 years later, that guy is greater than me, like huge. Like people don't even talk about Kevin Samuels is talked about more in his death than I am right now living. And you see, like, wow, just through that interaction and having some level of altruism, look how this guy has been able to swing the bat. But what I never thought about was how it was going to come back to me. I wasn't even looking at to do it. But man, the guy helped me so much. I was able to do a part of this studio. I would have to say was because of the money that me and him that he was able to. And I never physically got a chance to meet him. But it was just like you never think about the people that you're helping as they see the community different from you, because people don't think about that. When you're in a community setting, people are bringing their skills and they're bringing their vision and they're bringing their eye to the game, and they can see things that you don't have a keen view of looking at. And so because of that specialized eye set that they have, they're going to be able to manipulate certain things that you would never be able to do, but you just can't expect it. And they come out and they find a loophole in something that's really great, and they share it with you. And as black, especially as black men, we tend to be more in competition with each other. And so because of that, we don't help each other because, I gotta get all the money and stunt on the rest of you dudes here who are broke. And you're not looking at, man, the brother you helped. And one thing I love about working with men is when you do something for men, they typically appreciate it. And they typically pay it forward. Women, that's a little different story. Women, thank you, and they gone, you know what I mean? But men.
No, that's so interesting because it's the opposite for me. But please continue.
Well, Mr. DJ. So, but almost everything that I've gotten in the last 5 years, women have helped me, but the men that I've tried to see that it sometimes even become better than me. And because of that relationship, those men have explained things to me. They have showed me things that refer people to me. And that's something that a lot of times we don't look at in the community. We don't look at, okay, let's make the whole community develop And then let's let these opportunities come into our community. Like we're going to have an event with the Nine Lives Connection on the 27th.
Yep.
I don't know anything about events. It's like, hey, let's just put the event there. Let's see what happens. And you don't know, like now, as that starts to grow, the community itself grows. Like we had Value Farm in today. Yeah. Things like that. You don't look at how, and then he's doing something completely different from me. But he said he got inspired to come because of this channel. I have no idea how to do farming. Met a guy, but I have no idea how to do what he does. But look at the community it develops. And you're not looking at the logistic growth you're going to get from many different views on the particular project that you're working on. But that's being a good person and wanting to see your group be successful.
Yeah.
And a lot of times as Blacks, we don't want, it's good to be individually successful, but I want my group in comparison to somebody else. No offense to the Indians or whoever, but when I look at my group, I want my group to be successful, period. That's what I'm doing. I want my people to win at all costs. Not at the cost of them or even any other group, but that's my perception. I'm thinking with a Black mind here. So now when I do that, I start to see things developing in ways that I could have never saw it. And people, if you haven't had that experience, it's hard to see it. But as Blacks, if we had that mentality, just look at the numbers we have in the Black world. Diaspora, Africa free trade. We have so much money out there. You can't believe it. But you don't have a bridge. Somebody has to give first before they receive. Nobody wants to give first. Me, I don't have no problem throwing my own stuff out there on the line. Let's just get it done, right? Because what's going to happen is things are going to happen where you're going to get so many people that can come in and help you. And one thing I love about the Black world is so many people are willing to help you. They might not have the vision to start that thing, but they may have the vision to make it better than even you thought it could be. But we have to be able to give first. We can start by even just saying hello. Africa ain't a problem saying hello to nobody. In America, it is. You get Black men that won't even say hello to each other. Black people won't say hello to each other. Won't even say hello to the woman, or you're afraid that she might say me too, or what you looking at, or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And that level of toxicity, if you can't even speak, how can you even have a community to even meet and solve your community's problems? Because you can't even talk. In America, Black folks are trying to avoid each other unless it's a club, outing, or sex. Earn your leisure. They're doing a great yeoman's job with that. We talked about the same thing going on here in Africa. Look at the opportunities that Earn Your Leisure is creating for not only entrepreneurs, selling courses. They're putting on they're creating a great community, and they're showing it can be done. But the thing about it is that somebody has to give first and give value first. And then you might not receive it right now or later, but you will. And so Blacks are missing their own opportunity. I'm seeing people, for example, let's say I was watching Franklin in London. This lady was in poultry. She just got into it. She said Nigeria is one of the only countries where you can get into poultry farming and invest and make a profit in the same year. I was like, wow. She was like, the guy that showed her how to do it, all his kids went to London School of Economics and great colleges off of poultry. In America, we don't bring our people, I don't know about London, but our UK, we don't bring our people into opportunities like that you can just walk in and somebody can tell you, like, this is how I did it. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. It's more common, I believe, to do that there than here, because Africans typically don't share as much information as us in the West, as from what I see. But what if you can do that and there's a hole in the market you can get? We can all have this money together. There don't need to be no reason why we need to fight over it. And because of our thinking, we don't have community like we used to, because we used to have to do it. But when you don't have community, you can't get nothing. Your kids got to go to the white man for the jobs and everything. So I think that once we can understand how the communities take time to develop, it takes money to develop, it takes sacrifice to develop. But once you got it, man, you got something, man. You got something crazy. And that's what I want this podcast is to show, like, hey, look, wherever you are ever, if you're in Houston, Dallas, even in Cambridge, you need to work with people in order to achieve something. Because if you have nothing as a group, and stop looking at yourself as an individual. Well, I make $20,000 a year. Yeah, but you might be able to make $2 million a year if you had a network. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of a long time ago, more than 10 years ago, my old man advised me to read a book called The Capitalist Nigger.
Whoa.
Yes. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but I want to buy it now.
So the book, I'm failing to retrieve the name of the author in my mind right now, but The Capitalist Nigger is about the notion that particularly blacks in the diaspora need to adopt a spiderweb doctrine the way that Indians,
Yes.
Jews
Yes.
have within their community. And what I mean by a spiderweb doctrine is once money enters your community, it doesn't leave.
There you go.
Same way that a fly can fly into a spider web, hit that spider web, get trapped, and it's stuck there, and it's going to die there. There are a lot of statistics about how quickly a dollar leaves the Black American community.
6 hours is what
6 hours, right? Whereas in the Jewish community, comparatively, once a dollar enters that Jewish community, it circulates and rotates a dozen times.
Yep.
You're spending your money in a salon owned by people of your ethnicity, in a pharmacy, in a supermarket, in a bank, and all of that money is just rotating within the community. So the overall arching principle of the book, The Capitalist Nigger, I know the title is
It's
wild.
crazy. I'm about to order it tonight.
But it's an amazing book, and it's not a long read, maybe just a couple hundred pages. But the whole idea is that it's a call to action for Black men and Black women out there who see themselves as leaders to become the type of people who invest their time and effort into building this kind of a community. Not only am I just going to work hard for myself and my immediate family, my wife, my kids, my parents, my immediate people, in my immediate circle who I have to take care of, but I'm going to build an economic community around me. I'm going to ring fence this economic opportunity that we have within our community. So when you mention people in Houston, in Dallas, in LA, in New York City, in Boston, in London, wherever you happen to be located out there in the world, you belong to a community that has an opportunity to do more as a collective.
Oh, yeah.
You belong to a community that has an opportunity to develop generational wealth with the collective knowledge and influence of all of these different members.
Yes.
You could have a guy who's a specialist in real estate, and all he has to do is gather 20 individuals who have $5,000 to invest with that $100,000 down payment. You start buying multi-family properties. Next thing you know, 10 years down the line, you have a $20 million portfolio of real estate property. Similarly in the manufacturing business, similarly in any industry, there's always somebody who can benefit you in a way that you didn't realize if you just extend yourself into their world.
Exactly.
So I think that's a big piece that I'm taking away from this conversation is it's not just about going from the US or going from wherever you're from in the diaspora and coming to Africa and expecting people to embrace you and change their lives through your influence. But it's about first developing that mentality over there.
Yes.
And strengthening that muscle so that when the time comes for real communities to be built, it's the norm and it's not the exception anymore.
Because you're going to have that here.
Yeah.
You know, even me, I'm going to tell you, like, before I go back to maintain. I grew up, my mom, my brother, my dad, obviously have a small family and my grandparents, but I never had to live in a house with a lot of people until 2020 came. And then we had COVID. We were staying, it was a lot of us in like a 2-bedroom apartment, like 8 or 9. And I was like, yo, man, what the fuck is this? Like, but over time, I'm like, oh, but this is what it takes for you to get better. And I didn't have nowhere else to go. Like, it had to be done. The work had to be done. My mom had to deliver those goods from UG Unlocked to here. And it taught me something that I would have never experienced in the States because I'm like, hell no, I know why I'm living with like 9 people in the house. Especially me, I was making like well over $300,000 in a year at that time. So I was like, oh no, who I mean, like, but it humbled me to understand what's at stake here. And what at stake was not just me. It was the people that was helping me achieve X, Y, and Z. So it wasn't just I was doing this all by myself. No, the community was helping me do this and stuff like that. So again, thinking like that as blacks, it takes some hard work because you're not used to it, especially Americans. Africans, I think it's a little easier for them to do it in general. But for us, like coming from London, France, and we're used to that lifestyle. We're not used to that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
true.
For me, I just want to see the mindset change. Because once the mindset changes, I believe you'll see a very visible shift in how we work together. Because till in my old age, until I moved here, I wasn't thinking about, starting my own business.
right.
I weren't thinking about how I'm going to structure my day, week, month, because that was already in place for me
Yes.
in London. When I came here, I sat down one day and said, why aren't things moving for me like how they are in London? Why aren't things like, and it's because I'm not used to like working for me. I'm used to working for someone else, and it took a while to click. And if I'm thinking that way, and I'm because of a product of my childhood, I've got this mindset. How many others are like me, or even worse? So it's the whole mindset shift that needs to change, and I it feels like it is. It feels like people are starting to, like in London, we have a ex-rapper called Swiss who was down with So Solid Crew, who were a group out of South London who charted #1 with a grime record, which was unheard of. He runs a Black Pound store. So you go to that store and your money is going to black businesses. So you have a jewelry section and like a cosmetic section, a clothing section, or they're all black brands. And it's a big movement in London. It started with a Black Pound store, and then other businesses are now doing the same. And people are seeing the benefit in working together.
Right.
Whereas when I was a kid, it wasn't even that. Like you'd see a black store, but you'd be like, and go to the Indian one.
Yeah.
As a black person.
Yeah, of course.
Like you're looking at a black person's store and you're like, you've got doubts about it. You've never even been in there, but you've got doubts about it because your self-worth is lower than low. So, it's starting to change. And if I see it in my lifetime, that'd be great. If I don't, all good. Let's just keep striving toward that end goal.
I'm saying real quick, my mom, when I was coming up, I grew up in Del Paso Heights. So Del Paso Heights was like one of the roughest sections in Sacramento. So my whole goal was like, okay, you don't see a lot of resources here. And for us, if you really wanted to see white people interact with them, you had to really move out of your neighborhood and you needed to go to like either a white school or California State University, Sacramento, or UC Davis. So you needed to do something to get out of, and Sacramento's a big white city. But in our section where the blacks were at, you had to do something. So the way we saw achievement was, okay, so you get away from these particular people and you need to go to university. Now, here's let's talk about this. There's a guy in my neighborhood, Mr. Harry Block. He was really influential in our neighborhood. So much so that the city of Sacramento named the street after him, African-American man. Well, he's about 70 now. The houses on Harry Block Street is like $500,000 in Del Paso Heights, which is the ghetto. So if I would have had the mindset of, okay, I'm going to buy a house here and keep it when it was like $50,000, 3 or 4 of those, which at the time I could have easily afforded, I would be rich. But I thought everything was so decrepit there that I completely wanted to just say, fuck what's ever here. I need to get to the suburbs And I judge my success by living in a white neighborhood and having still a black wife, but then my kids will grow up around white people. I thought that was my success. And little do I know I was running from my opportunity. Because my parents, they have very limited knowledge. So I noticed that a lot of people in Africa feel the same way about going to America or, when we leave our places where we live, that's what we know. That's our strength. We know how things work in Black America or how in Black London. But when we leave that, we leave our opportunities too. And I just wish that hindsight 2020, I would go back and get educated and come back and invest in the people in the community that I understood. I will be way more further right now, and the communities that I would have been able to help would have been much more farther. So I think that's also a telling tale, because I was trying to get away from Black America, and then now look at the whites they're coming into where I'm trying to run from, because it's close to downtown. And it's like, damn, this is all like set up for fail. So they tell you to leave the Black American neighborhoods and get out and go to the white schools, and then you don't own anything in the process. Yeah, they're never going to tell you how to clean up your people. But that's what I found out. And as Blacks, we have to understand the trick. Everybody else is owning everything but you, yet you're in the hamster wheel.
True. Okay. It's the framework, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Like the framework of like white is bright and good, and the how you should judge yourself against. Whereas me as a Black man in London, it's not much to be celebrated. So like I was saying, that's the theme I'll be going with pretty much the whole episode. But it's just, the framework and the way things are framed to make you feel less about yourself, which leads you to make the decisions O'Shea was talking about, right? Moving into that neighborhood, having kids with your wife, and then your kids growing up in that neighborhood and them having a different problem, whereas they have to assimilate to progress, and in that sense, you kind of lose yourself a little bit.
A lot. Look at LeBron James and look at his son, Bronny.
Yeah.
The son cannot even relate at all.
Yeah.
To LeBron's generation. You don't have the same values.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I feel like, Gabs, were you saying something?
No, I mean, I think the only further thoughts I have on this are that people just need to expose themselves.
Yes.
To a world outside of their own. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big piece. Expose yourself to a world outside of your own. How do people in other cultures approach combining business relationships with the way that they govern their communities, with the way that they run their families, with the way that they just deal with people in general? How do people who are successful at the highest levels of business, if your objective is to be successful, don't discriminate against whose example you can follow. Mm-hmm. Pick the best example of what it is that you can pick from anybody, from the Indian culture, from the Jewish culture, from the Asian culture. It doesn't matter where you have to look. As long as you're willing and open to expose yourself to new information, your paradigm can shift very quickly. And I think that's a good start toward being able to get to the success that you want. Yeah.
It is hot as hell.
But this has been a very good episode. I feel like this is a learning episode. My duty today has been to learn from the great minds on this podcast. And I feel like anyone out there who's watching is also learning a lot from this. But yeah, guys, if no one has anything else to say, we can close this up.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm hot.
Well, sorry.
It's a hot day in Kampala.
Peace.
Guys. Oh, tell people where they can find you. Shit wants to.
At DJ Maintain across all social platforms. Check out my new music and check out my mixes.
Okay.
And all that stuff.
Gabs?
Yeah, at Master Gabs on all the social media platforms that matter.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And Allergic to Average Podcast on your YouTube channel.
Great podcast.
Check it out.
Lovely podcast. Yeah.
They haven't invited me over there, but
I should tell them about the event.
May 27th, guys, we have an event, Casa de Roy Africa Day. Africa Day happens every May 25th. It's been going on for at least 60 years, so celebrating the liberation of Africa. But since I've been living in Europe and now outside of the diaspora, I've been involved in a few Africa Days. It's been great. I think that most of you in America don't know about Africa Day. So typically May 25th, we celebrate Africa and its diaspora. We'll be doing it though on the 27th because we felt that it would give people here more time on the weekend. So we'll have some performances. We'll have some liquor, even though I'm a Christian. We'll have some food. It's free entry. A lot of people there. Just show up. We love to see you.
Perfect. And do follow us on our social media platforms at King and the Nation. We'll see you guys next time.